Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Robert Stickle, and I'm also joined by my colleague Jim Patterson. Jim will be today's presenter and will discuss the topic of transforming Smartsheet into a strategic portfolio management solution with OnePlan. This webinar is a new addition to our series of strategic portfolio management videos, so if you enjoy this webinar, feel free to watch the others we have available on our channel and look towards the next installment, which we'll be releasing soon. And as always, I hope that today's presentation grants you some insight into the world of project and portfolio management and gets you excited for the new developments happening within the industry and here at OnePlan. Thank you again. I'll now turn the presentation over to Jim.
Thank you, Robert, and welcome everybody. We're happy to present this topic today about extending capabilities for a large Smartsheet user base out there, and talk about the importance of and the capabilities to extend that into a strategic portfolio management solution with the help of OnePlan. So with that, let's get started. So, we've come a long way with traditional project and portfolio management methods over the last few decades, and it's really helped organizations advance their capabilities across the board, doing clarity and consistency of overall project management activities, help to pursue clearer objectives, help keep things real and realistic and complete. And a big pain point is the optimization and allocation of resources. We also hopefully do better at execution, so we improve the quality of our deliverables and minimize rework. And just sometimes it's just better visibility and reporting. These things have been accomplished, and with the advent of more modern tools and easier to access and get started tools like a Smartsheet, the accessibility of this type of capability, at least from the execution level, has never been better than it is right now. However, in this digital age, there is really a need, and the analysts like Gartner say that we really have to begin to get better at, and a lot of organizations have a lot of room for improvement here in aligning the execution of what they're doing with the strategies of the organization in order to have overall success. We have different departments, we might have silos in our organization, each doing a variety of different things, but as organizations really try to, in this digital age, set the course for visions and for strategies to execute on and a direction that they'd like to go, the projects and the initiatives that go on with the organization really need to align with those so that we can help make sure that we achieve those strategies and those visions for the organization. If we don't, we risk doing things in a haphazard way, doing the wrong things, and even wasting time by having duplicate things being going on that are trying to accomplish the same thing in different parts of the organization. But the shared objectives of the organization should be shared by those executing the change and executing on the projects, etc. This involves the strategy itself and the processes and the systems around that. Why is this important? Well, in today's business environment, things are more complex than ever. As we do this, there's more complexity, more uncertainty, more fast-changing environments, and we're seeking ways to manage risk and optimize our portfolio and ensure they're aligned with our strategic goals, because as things change, those goals may shift, those goals may get augmented, and we have to be able to be nimble and be able to adjust. There's greater need for financial and resource optimization. We do have finite resources of money and people and other resources. And so we got to do a better job of identifying and prioritizing the most critical things for us to work on, the investments that will provide the most value to the organization, allocate the resources on a timely basis to those things, and make sure we have the right mix of resources to maximize our returns. We also have a demand for data-driven decision-making. If we're kind of going along blindly and we're not getting real-time and rich insights into portfolio performance of our portfolio of efforts, we can make the wrong decisions or get caught flat-footed and not make adjustments at a time when we can still have an effective change. So in order to make those types of informed decisions, we need to not only align with strategic goals, but we actually have to have that data available to us in a form and format that's useful to us. There's also a proliferation of different methodologies and variations and tools because of the adoption of more agile and other project management methodologies. It's no longer a waterfall-only world. It hasn't been for a long time. So there's a greater need for effective portfolio management that brings these things together, that allows the flexibility to work in the method that makes the most sense for the type of project or initiative that you're on, and also to use the execution tools that make the most sense for the type of work that you're doing, or the ones that get adopted by your organization. And then there's emerging technologies and business models. With this, there's new opportunities and challenges. For example, we have to find different ways to reach our customer, different business models. We might have to upgrade the technology in our business process and our capabilities and our products internally in our organization. And we got to evaluate and prioritize these opportunities to assure that we're not missing the boat, and that when we do think about going down a road, that it aligns with our overall business strategy. So strategic portfolio management, as defined by Gartner, is a set of business capabilities, processes, and supporting portfolio management technology that really supports enterprise-wide strategy to execution alignment. That means everybody aligned, no matter what business unit or department or area of the company that they're in, having alignment on what we're doing to make sure that we're all going toward the common set of goals and strategies. And that includes more than just aligning, say, with a strategy to, say, a set of projects or initiatives. It also includes other dimensions these days. There's business capabilities and processes that we might have to augment or factor in when we make our decision. There's digital or physical products and applications that are maybe key to us achieving a strategy or an objective. And those have to be either factored in, modified, or modernized, for example, in order to succeed. And then there's the projects themselves. So it gets more complex as we look at all these different interrelations and the factors for success. So a complete SPM, or strategic portfolio management solution, should have our business strategies that have been defined, and the execution of the initiatives and the projects that are aligning with those strategies and factoring in the core assets of the organization. And the key stakeholders are the leadership who sets that direction and that strategy. We have our, IT and functional management who own the critical assets and the infrastructure that support getting to those strategies and executing. And then there's the execution teams on the projects and the portfolio management that will have to deliver on those things and make sure that we achieve those goals. So in the need for data-driven decision-making and portfolio optimization, if we don't have that type of visibility with rich data, we can fail. Gartner says by 2025, 70% of digital investments will fail to deliver expected business outcomes due to the absence of a strategic portfolio management approach. That's quite a daunting assertion. Now, when surveyed by Gartner, the organization surveyed, and if we look at the bar charts here about the most valuable things that can happen to meet these business challenges, the light blue bars represent what percentage put these things in their top 5 challenges to meet, and then the dark blue bars represented what percentage have made it their #1 choice. So we focus on the dark blue bars, collaborate across groups to align strategy, getting all the different segments of the organization rowing together into the same direction was considered #1. #2 was execution of enterprise-wide initiatives, large. Now, if we have to align across all that, it goes to saying that these two go hand in hand in order to be successful. On #3, there's the quick and effective portfolio prioritization, which means the adaptation to change, and the project and portfolio and program management, meaning the managing an aggregation of these efforts, is really, once again, cross-functional in its nature by definition in most organizations. So these are the things that were determined to be the most valuable to meet these business challenges of today. So if we look at the Smartsheet user base, it's grown very fast and has a very loyal user base out there. Now, Smartsheet has had explosive growth for individuals and teams, mostly because the ease of use and flexibility and the ease to get started is really big drivers for that adoption, and it can grow organically that way, and sometimes in a very ad hoc way. Now, broader use of the solution and trying to pull things together after the fact highlights gaps and missing capabilities that may be needed to achieve portfolio management and other strategic portfolio management capabilities. Now, organizations and their PMOs and their EPMOs, enterprise project management offices, have trouble harnessing for portfolio level needs the variety of Smartsheet data and all the sheets that are out there in an organization. So more advanced approaches will require additional capabilities and that can extend beyond existing Smartsheet use or what Smartsheet has to offer. And in a lot of organizations, because so much time is invested in data and thought and just emotional investment, enhancement of that rather than replacement of it is often preferred to get to those capabilities that the organization needs. So OnePlan is really designed as a platform to provide all those strategic portfolio management capabilities. So if we think at the strategy piece and the business leaders that we talked about, the ability to provide strategies and OKRs or maybe value stream management, the execution leaders in the portfolio management and the project and initiative execution on here, whether they be more professional services, more agile, more product development, maybe more adaptive traditional project management, that execution needs to happen. And then the functional leaders that have the enterprise architecture, the application portfolio, and potentially a product portfolio or business capability portfolio that we have to address. These are things or dimensions that OnePlan is designed to handle all under one roof. So if we think about OnePlan, it's designed to connect strategy down to execution. And today, our purpose is to talk about how that can be done specifically to extend Smartsheet, where the execution may be happening at that detail level, where people have plans and sheets out there that are being used to execute on individual initiatives, but having them fold into a portfolio and ultimately align with a strategy is where OnePlan can pull that all together. So what are the overall capabilities that we're talking about? Now, this is going to give you the full breadth. But for example, on the intake or the initiation side of things, senior leadership, as we talk about, is going to put strategies in place. And typically the commonly accepted way that's done in modern offices is doing objectives and key results or OKRs. Those can be identified and enumerated and executed on a OnePlan. There's also an enterprise architecture component where I mentioned we might have a application portfolio, we might have a product portfolio, we might have business capabilities, there may be value streams that we need to align with as we go through this, and these two things may actually spawn off the ideas or the requests that eventually will become the initiatives that we work on within the organization. OnePlan provides the ability to do that idea capture, request capture, evaluation, and vetting, such that when it comes time to do portfolio planning, we can, based on criteria and alignment with our strategies, select the right things to work on in both planning and prioritization of those things. And be able to have flexible views of these portfolios with things like traditional views like you see up here in a grid, or maybe board views and working with your portfolio in more agile approaches or lean approaches, or maybe even roadmap views for the more product-oriented people. Be able to look at that data in different perspectives is what OnePlan provides you the ability to do at that portfolio level. Resource capacity planning, big pain point in most organizations, and the ability to try to reconcile what we'd like to get done with the resources we have at hand, and whether or not we have the capacity to do those things is something we can manage right within OnePlan. And some of that can be derived directly from the resource planning that might be done on the things that are assigned to people in Smartsheet. There's financial planning, and some people need to do more detailed financial tracking and have that align with the initiatives and roll up to the overall portfolio and the individual strategies that we're talking about. And then as we talked about the fast changing market, the ability to do what if scenario modeling and look at alternatives and in this ever changing fast paced world that we're in, be able to adjust and look at alternatives on a real time basis. On the execution side, OnePlan does have work plan and agile plan capabilities, both from a waterfall and agile perspective. But for the purposes of our conversation today, we can have Smartsheet data basically being pulled in automatically into OnePlan so it will roll up into that portfolio on an automated basis, and augment that with things like issue tracking, risk management, change requests and change management, etc., and pull that all under one umbrella into one portfolio hub. Now, the resource managers, the ability to allocate resources, whether that be allocating resources to individual projects and initiatives, or negotiating with projects from the functional manager perspective or the resource manager side of things to decide who gets allocated to which projects. Those types of negotiation functions and planning functions and tracking functions are in OnePlan. Now, team members have their capabilities. Now, being able to status everything in one location in my work, whether it be things that are generated in Smartsheet or maybe things that are generated in OnePlan, They can all be statused from one place, and even time reporting can be done across all elements, even ones that come in from Smartsheet. Now, when we talked about having data-driven analysis, having status reports that are a natural output of the process, dashboards that provide the ability to look at things from different levels of the structure, whether it be at the portfolio, the program, project level, or even down at the very detailed levels in that, gives us the ability to look at data in the way we need to see it to make decisions. And then as we talked about interrelating these things in a strategic portfolio management realm, looking at a complex environment and how these things interrelate through visualizations is something we're going to show you today within OnePlan. Ultimately, we're driving outcomes, whether that outcome is a product, a service, an application, or just anything that derives business value and or benefits realization for our organization is something that OnePlan can help us manage. We've recently added artificial intelligence. Our Sophia GPT allows us to do analysis beyond what we can do with our own human intellect, and we'll augment these things by providing that intelligent-based planning and intelligent-based assistant in this mix. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is pick the right work to do the right work that aligns with strategy, and give us the tools to execute and do the work right so that we have those successful outcomes. So the benefits is really fill in the gaps with Smartsheet, as we talked about. If we look about using OnePlan to extend Smartsheet into a strategic portfolio management solution, some of the primary things that people want to do is have enhanced portfolio visibility that they're not necessarily getting with their current use of Smartsheet capabilities. The strategic alignment, making sure that we are always in alignment with our initiatives, with where leadership wants to go, and even be able to just execute on those strategies. And really just do improve resource management, making sure that our capacity planning and the commitments that we're making are aligning with our ability to deliver those resources and be able to execute and deliver as we commit, as we promise. So if we think about flexible portfolio visibility, given that, as you can see, rolling up all these Smartsheet plans into a flexible set of portfolio views is something that we're going to talk about here today. Prioritization and selection, by being able to do prioritization mechanisms, vetting of ideas and requests and active projects in relation to one another, and be able to do what if scenario modeling. Those are things that we want to be able to add to the mix here for Smartsheet users. The visualization of the strategic alignment and how we align with other elements within the system is something that we'll delve into here today, which is something that we can provide. The resource capacity planning, what does that look like in an individual project? An initiative, what does it look like globally across our commitments? And is the aggregate of that is it achievable with the resources and the skill sets that we have? Financial planning and tracking, being able to have detailed cost categories and cost structures to track in the way that you need to in your complex environments, and even potentially integrate those things with your financial system. And as I mentioned, dashboards at all levels, whether it be we want portfolio level reporting, program level reporting, individual project level reporting, and then different dimensions of that, whether it be, portfolio, task-based, resource-based, other elements that we might want to look at, and even things like trend reporting. And on the analysis side of things, we've added Sophia, as I had mentioned, AI as a collaborator, and Sophia is leveraged to use Microsoft's Azure OpenAI, not the general OpenAI that's available out there on ChatGPT and the open internet. So it's got the boundaries and the protections and the compliance that Microsoft provides with all that. But it's also been trained to learn all about OnePlan and what it does and what it can do for you. And it will actually factor in things in a particular view within OnePlan to augment that, to give you suggestions and help in all that. Now, our focus isn't to give you that, but I may be able to have time to give you an example or two of how that might be used. Now, the integrations that we're talking about, like with Smartsheet, OnePlan has a built-in integration platform that allows us to connect to OnePlan with a variety of different tool sets, but Smartsheet is a standard out-of-the-box connector that allows us to connect to the sheets that you're working with today. So with that, I thought I'd give you a demonstration of these capabilities in action. So when you come into OnePlan, and you can use your favorite browser to come into OnePlan, any user, depending on their role and their permissions in here, has a home page that would give them direct access to the things that matter to them specifically. For example, I've got direct access to the plans that I have access to. I don't have to navigate through an entire portfolio of plans in order to get to those in there. I have insights that you can set up for different notifications and insights as to what might require my attention, what might be due, what might be overdue, what might be in or out of compliance. There's conversation capabilities in here that allow us to look at the actual conversations that relate to the tasks and or plans that I'm on, and even get notifications on things that might be due soon. The thing is, you can start here and then get to different things that you might want to do, or even create new things in here, like new projects and things like that from within OnePlan, or new ideas or new requests. Now, ultimately, what we're here to talk about today is how we bring this together for portfolio management. So if I go and look at the left navigation here, where access to all the OnePlan capabilities is available, I'm in the My Portfolio area and looking at a list view of this portfolio. And in this particular case, we're structured in this case, and this can be defined by you and your organization, a portfolio plan type hierarchy, where, for example, I have different portfolios, so I have maybe one or more portfolios in the organization. I might have different programs, right, within that set of portfolios, and then I might have projects and or more agile types of approaches, which we're calling epics here, but the nomenclature you use would be totally up to you, and the hierarchy that you'd be totally up to you. But this primary hierarchy, as it manifests itself, we look at portfolios that are here. In this case, I'm showing 5 different portfolios. Within that, I've got some programs within those portfolios. And then within the programs, I've got projects and epics within the individual programs potentially. And you can have plans that aren't associated with any program at all. But if you notice, in addition to this plan hierarchy, you'll also notice there's some icons over to the side that indicate that these plans in here are getting data from Smartsheet. It's actually actively connected to Smartsheet as we go through here. If we look at the portfolio, the details that we're bringing over from those sheets, we'll get to in a moment here. But as we roll that up into a structured portfolio with different capabilities, I might have different views here and say the list view here. I'm looking at a portfolio summary, but maybe I'd want to do something like, say, oh, I don't know, let me look at more of a financial oriented view of my portfolio, you know, where I might look at more financial metrics. I might want to look at, oh, I don't know, a more of a schedule summary on, you know, how we're going to deliver on this thing and what that looks like to us, and be able to look at what the timelines are around those types of things. I might want to look at, you know, more of maybe a prioritization view, where I want to look at what the priorities are around all of these things, and say, look at the prioritization score and have a scoring mechanism in here. So when I select both proposed and active projects and ideas, I have some common valuing of those projects to understand what those things are, and even potentially drag and drop these items and do some forced ranking and change the sequence or the priority of those things based upon the priorities that I want to do as I do portfolio analysis. But ultimately, these list views allow us to do a variety of different things. And, you know, I mentioned you have a plan type hierarchy, and that might be your primary structure. But as you're looking at your portfolio, you might want to slice and or filter and summarize your portfolio by a variety of different ways. You might use metadata against that or categorize this. For example, here I'm looking at just a flat list of plans that strips out the view of the hierarchy in there, right? And as I come through there, I might want to come in and look at filtering this by other parameters. I could filter these things by say manager, or I could filter it by, let's just go by business unit. And I'd say, let me filter it down just to the IT projects that we have here. And I can look at those in different parameters, et cetera. If I go look at that, I can basically filter and group on those types of things as well. We have board views. And as I go into the board views, it's going to give me more of an agile perspective on this. So for example, here I'm looking at this board by state, whether what's proposed, what's active, what's closed, color coded by the status, what's red, yellow, green. I've got some dependencies that are showing up in here across the boards, and looking at those types of things. I might even have different things where I have not only columns, but swim lanes. So if I look at this board and I look at the next one by, say, strategy, since we're doing strategic alignment today, I might have these different strategies and I can see which projects or initiatives are actually aligned with which strategy and what the status is on those. And at any given point in time, I can drill into one of these and actually get the details on that, either by hovering over that or going into what we call a quick edit and basically popping out all the details that are available to us about this particular project or initiative in one quick screen. And I can look at all the details around that, whether it be financial information, effort information, KPIs, etc. I can even look at things like, what it's aligned with as we go through. Like this one is aligned with a key result in an OKR strategy. The key there is we can look at these boards in a variety of different ways and even summarize things like totals, like what our overall budgets are on those things, etc. Another one I might look at is strategic alignment by goals. And this one I think will bring the swim lanes into mix. So for example, I've got the different goals in the organization and which initiatives I have that are working towards customer satisfaction versus grow the business, and which ones align extremely well with those strategies or strongly, or maybe just have moderate alignment. And once again, I can look at these things in all these different perspectives in a board. Now the roadmap view, that's kind of a more of a product oriented type of view where we're looking at delivery and when these things are going to happen overall on a time scale on a roadmap. So for example, this one, I'm looking at a roadmap by business unit, and it's got the timeline on the horizon that I have, and it's also got swim lanes, in this case, based upon the actual business units. If I went into one that was, say, looking at this by goals, this one would actually give me that roadmap view by those goals, shows even dependencies I might even have between those different projects or initiatives. And then I might even do this by different strategies that I have. And in this case, I'm looking at individual strategies and how these align and looking at those things there as well. So once again, a roadmap view of the types of things that we want to look at. Now, once again, anything is available here that we can drill into at any given point in time. I can get to that quick edit that I talked about earlier on through that dashboard, and I can even go into the visualization of this by basically saying, let me go look at how this is related to all the other elements in the system. And this opens that door to the discussion of the other elements in a strategic portfolio management solution. In this case, I can see this data warehouse migration has a predecessor that's yellow, and I could look at its data at any given point in time that I wanted to. I got successors that are dependent on me. I also have all the associations available to me. So I can see this data warehouse migration is actually supporting a number of key results, which are in turn supporting a number of strategies or objectives in the organization. And we also have to look at some specific products that might be associated or impacting our ability to deliver this project, as well as different applications. And in this particular view, I'm looking at business capabilities and value streams as well. So once again, these types of strategic interactions and the things that we have to factor in and consider are all visible to us through this approach. Now, if I go back to our portfolio, everything in our portfolio rolls up here in different views. Here's a nice view. This is a compliance view that gives me information based upon all the details in each of these portfolio items. Which ones have late tasks? Which ones have governance compliance in there? Which one, how many tasks are off track, etc. And the idea is I can look at those things all in one place. Now, if I drill into a specific project, and I'm going to drill into this data warehouse migration project, and let me go into that details page that we talked about earlier on, that which was really just encapsulated in that quick edit pop out that I showed you. As I look through that, I can actually go into here and I see all the OnePlan specific data. I can see the metadata that I want to put against this to categorize. And once again, you can configure these forms to have whatever data in you want and put whatever sections in you like. We might have business case data that came in from an idea or a request that got promoted into a project within the organization. We might have our prioritization scheme with, in this case, it's a more business driver related and how well it strategically aligns, or does it lower cost, does it reduce risk? and have all that calculated into a calculated prioritization score. We also have the ability to look at the current status of the schedule and the financials and the effort and the KPIs, et cetera, as we go through here. And as we go through here, we can also look at what we're associated with. So what drove those visuals and that visualization could be the key results that we are associated with here in the strategic plan, the applications that we are associated with that we may be dependent on or be related to in here, or even the products or the value streams, et cetera. You can determine to what degree you'd like to do that, but just wanted to communicate that capability is here for full strategic portfolio management interaction. Now, if I go in here, the work plan is really where we're making the primary connection with the data over in Smartsheet. Now, we may have a sheet and a project that derives the plan item in the portfolio. But for example here, just like we have plan types within the portfolio, we also have work types within our work planner. And in this work planner, I've got a schedule for more waterfallish types of things. I got a backlog for more agile types of planning. And I also got a place for issues, risks, changes, and key decisions, all within the same work planner. So for example, here, I'm looking at a plan that is more waterfall in nature in this schedule work type. I can look at any given point in time, I can look at the Gantt chart representation of this here. Let me just kind of go to a zoom to fit and look at that representation in here. But the cool thing about this is all of our plans in one plan would be represented in this work planner. But the cool part about this one is it's being derived because it is connected into Smartsheet, meaning that this plan, because it is coming from a Smartsheet sheet, the idea there is that what you see here in the schedule is what's being connected and brought over from Smartsheet through a dynamic connector. Now, you don't need to do any synchronization. Our One Plan, One Connect that makes this connection will allow you to schedule connections, typically hourly, that people would do something like that, to bring this data over from your Smartsheet elements and bring them over here and update One Plan on a routine basis without the Smartsheet user having to remember to do synchronization. Now, if you had to, you could do an on-demand import or export of data, depending on which direction you'd like that data to go. But ultimately, this data is coming from Smartsheet. So as I open up the Smartsheet for this particular schedule, what our connector is doing is getting the data from this particular sheet. So as you can see, the structure, the work breakdown structure hierarchy, the resources that are assigned, etc. This is the plan. And as this plan changes, and as you modify this plan over in Smartsheet, each subsequent update that happens within One Plan will grab the data that's here. Now you can choose which fields of data. You may not synchronize every field of data that you have in this sheet. You may have elements in here that you just want to maintain over here locally, for example, for yourself. But the idea is that you can map over whatever that you capture regarding this and have it synced over into One Plan. So ultimately, without having to remember that, as I come back here, once again, you could import and export on demand. This information is going to come from that active connection with Smartsheet. Now, once again, this work plan is only one dimension. All the other strategic portfolio management capabilities that we talked about are now provided by One Plan to supplement with what you're doing with Smartsheet here. So next, I might want to talk about in here the resource plan. That resource plan allows us to plan either top down or bottom up. I could do capacity planning independent of my Smartsheet schedule and just say, I need, let's just say if I looked at this in terms of FTEs instead of hours, I need, a project manager, I could say roughly 50% of the time for 6 months. Or I could say I need a project manager, 80 hours a month for 6 months. I can choose the mode at which I would do that in. And I can plan generically with resource roles or named individuals in here as well. And I can also do substitutions, for example, where I got to decide which project manager I need to put on this particular plan. And I can look at candidates and try to find best matches for people that might have the bandwidth to take on this project and actually replace that generic resource with a named individual as I do this, either within the project or as I'll show you later in a global resource plan. Now, this is very easily done. Sometimes people aren't doing detailed resource allocation at an individual task level, but if they are, OnePlan always also allows you to do that bottom-up resource planning. So in this case, with the Smartsheet schedule that's in place and the resources that are assigned and any hours of effort that are put in there, as I look through here and I look at Daniel Williams' bottom-up scheduled resource plan is being derived as a roll-up from all these different tasks that Daniel Williams was assigned to within the Smartsheet plan, which got synchronized over into OnePlan and is now rolling up into a resource-oriented view. Now, what's cool about that is if you choose to do timesheets, you can look at a plan of actuals, right, that also are coming in from the timesheets that would allow us to maybe have a top-down plan initially, maybe have a bottom-up resource view that's coming from Smartsheet that when that plan is fully built out, and then timesheets to look at where we're actually spending our time. Now, you don't have to do all that, but just wanted you to know the capability in OnePlan is here to do all that. And you can even compare things. For example, like if I wanted to compare the top-down capacity planning with the task-based bottoms-up scheduled, I can see where those differentiations are, where the committed plan might have been my original assumptions, but then what's scheduled might be different on the timing and the nature and the quantity of effort that's needed coming from the bottom up from that schedule. The same holds true with financials. We can actually put a detailed financial planning structure. We can actually bring our labor in from that resource plan because our resources have rates associated with them here in OnePlan and give us costing on that labor budget that we might have, as well as have non-labor categories that we might want to track those things against. And much like with the resource plan, we have different cost types in here where you can track an original budget, you can track a revised forecast, maybe track actuals, and even have those come in from your financial system with our connectors. And even track revenue and or benefits, for example, if it makes sense for you to do that. And just like we did with the resource plan, we can do comparisons. So for example, if our revised forecast is different than our budget, we can start looking at where those deltas and where those variations are. So once again, more detailed information that rolls up into the overall portfolio as we go through this. And on the reporting side, since we're in a specific plan here or a specific project, I wanted to go through the fact that we can go into reporting and we can look at things like have a natural status report that is fashioned by you, that has the data elements that you want in it, that allows you to put in your own narrative each reporting period, and even maybe pull in related items like what tasks or milestones you're working on or active issues that you're dealing with, etc. And when you submit this, it gives you the ability to then put it in and create a history of this and snapshot the data such that you can do trending reporting. And even if you're not a OnePlan user, you can put this report out to PDF, Word, or send it out in the body of an email. So in this particular case, this is, routine status reporting that gets generated mostly automatedly, and then you can add your own narrative and changes to it. We also have the ability in reporting to look at insights. So for example, I might look at insights about whether or not this plan's been updated recently, or do I have tasks that have things that are missing on them, etc. So once again, the insights that help us on this. We have individual dashboards, so project-specific reporting in Power BI that allows us to look at these things and gives us the ability to look at things from either overall plan summaries or maybe financials on this particular project, etc. And that whole idea of visualization, now that I'm in a specific project, if I look at it from a project-centric perspective, I can visualize those things and see this project is dependent on something else that's actually at risk. And I also have things downstream that are dependent on me that I can look at as well. The runway on all the associations, this project now being the central focus, I can see how it feeds back now into the strategies via the key results and the objectives. I can see the products and the applications I'm associated with, the capabilities, and even value streams if I wanted to do that. The idea of the visualization is all here and accessibility to that data. So, if I go back to the portfolio, this is where all this data rolls up, and the Smartsheet data that's coming over from your sheets is all part of that data that's rolling up and being augmented by the strategic portfolio management capabilities that are in OnePlan. Now, down upstream from that, you may want an ideas or a requests area that allows you to vet things pre-project. You may not want to clog your portfolio with proposed projects, for example. And you may have an ideas or a request area that allows us to have people submit those, have people responsible, like steering committees, to vet those and expand upon those. And as we go through that process, let me drill into one. You can define what data you'd like to capture around these ideas and requests. And maybe even as you go through the different stages of your approval lifecycle, different data may be asked for or open up in here that you could put in. So for example, I categorize the project by the type of project it might be. I'd maybe have some business case narrative. I got a little sparse in here, but the idea is you can put narrative in here. You can have financial assertions on things like budget and benefits. And even, as I said, the prioritization scheming, whether it be more business driver oriented, calculated to a score, or in this case, you might in an agile project use maybe a weighted shortest job first approach to calculate that in prioritization. And even your ideas and requests, you can always align these with strategies and such at this stage so that we can understand the importance of whether or not we should approve this as we go forward. Now, ultimately, the idea of why you would do this in here is that at some point, either through workflow or through somebody who has the permissions to do so, we can promote or convert or reorganize this and take this idea and request and promote it into a project or an epic or whatever, plan types that you've created in your organization, such that all the things that we've done in this planning cycle carries forward as we go through into the active life cycle. So once again, a continuum. Now, the strategic piece that, we do the objectives and key results. This allows us to structure these in a way that makes sense for your organization and actually execute on this plan. The objective being the overall strategy that we want, and the key results being tangible measures that we'd like to look at as we go through that. Now, we can use a, strategy-centric view of those visualizations where we just visualize this from a particular perspective. So for example, if one of our objectives was to improve customer satisfaction, I could choose to visualize this here. And I won't go through that again at this moment because we've done a couple of those already. But the idea is we can go into the details on any one of these things, like a objective, and you can categorize what it is you want them to enumerate and define them. You can prioritize them. You can give them timetables and deadlines of which you'd like to meet, or periods, and you can have key results that are associated with them as we go through. So for example, if one of our key results was to increase customer satisfaction score by 10%, I can go into here and I can see this key result. And I can see the key result metrics, which can be numbers, dollars, percentages, other things that you'd want them to be. And you can track how you're achieving those tangibly and what kind of progress we're making along those. And ultimately, as we showed you in the visualizations, it's aligned with different ideas, projects, and epics as we go through here, which is what's driving those visualizations, because we have these associations and things that may be dependent or associated on. When we look at the enterprise architecture elements, I'll just briefly touch on this, because the enterprise architecture and strategic portfolio management is definitely part of a full SPM solution, and it is an advanced topic. But you can have other portfolios, like for example, product portfolios. You can have business capability portfolios, application portfolios, a portfolio of value streams. And you can define the things that you want to be done in here as you go through this. So for example, as you go through and define a product portfolio, for example, you can have precedence dependencies, and you can have runways once again, and you can have details on these types of things where you might have a product life cycle that you're looking at. You might have a vision matrix where we look at SWOT analysis, et cetera, on this and manage the different parts of that product. The same thing holds true with applications. It holds true with the business capabilities, et cetera. Now, I would say as we look through all this, the ability to model these things, the ability to look at alternatives gives us the ability to create what-if analysis scenarios or models. And I'm just going to open one that's already been done given the time that we have here today. And let's just say we were considering a mix of a number of different projects here and ideas or requests. In this case, I've got 11 of them. If I went through here, and let's just say I had a $6 million budget I was considering against this. Now, in this, we can select and deselect projects to see what's in or out at any given point in time. We can determine what time frames these would be in. So for example, we could actually look and delay these things at time, because what we're really looking at is constraints. For example, if I have resource constraints down below and I put these in here, or financial constraints, I can see that the selections that I've made actually get me right around a $6 million budget if I do the mix of things that were selected. That's why this $6 million scenario was saved, saying with what we've selected based on priorities and timing, we can get this done for $6 million, right? The same thing would hold true if we were looking at resource constraints. So for example, in that, while I may have the dollars, I might have some bottlenecks or constraints in certain areas where, for example, I've got a plan that has Ehrlich Bachman severely over allocated as I go through here. So as I either deselect other projects, right, or potentially move things out in time, say a proposed project that I decide I'm going to move out later in time, it will dynamically change the resource calculation in here of what's needed till I get to something that I think that I can do, and I can save these as different scenarios. Now, ultimately, we're going to be looking at multiple scenarios more than likely. In this case, I can compare a $6 million with an $8 million scenario that I did, and look at the fact that ultimately, as I compare these things, if I could get another $2 million in budget, I might be able to get another $4 million in benefit. It might be worth me going out and getting those dollars to make that happen. Now, we do have some traditional visuals in here. For example, in portfolio analysis, the bubble chart is popular, where I can look at the things that are selected and see where they fit from a prioritization and benefit perspective. So high prioritization, high benefit, it looks like most of these things with the bigger bubbles are in those. The things that we did not select are down here in the lower echelons potentially. So, you know, we might feel good about the fact that maybe the things that we excluded aren't the high priority elements that we wanted. So once again, we have different what if analysis that we can do and evaluate alternatives within the solution itself. And I think I'll end on the demo with this part. Let's just say I go into, say, the ideas area, and I want to get an assessment based upon the data that's in there. You know, what should my priorities be potentially, and have Sophia maybe ask that. Now, you can call up Sophia in any aspect, and in context, it will know what views of data that you're in. And I'm going to ask it, based on priority and ROI, what 3 projects should we approve first? And it's going to do some thinking. And those of you that have dabbled with ChatGPT, etc., it's going to come back with some suggestions for me. In this case, it's saying, it's giving me some analysis on the top 3 projects, right? On what we should suggest based on those types of things. I can ask it other questions, but given the time frame that we have whole other webinars actually that you can look at on demand that we've gotten into depth in the AI function here as well. So with that, let me go back to our slides, and let's wrap this up with summary and next steps. So to recap, strategic portfolio management is now expanding on what we've been doing over the years in project portfolio management traditionally, and adapting for the modern digital business. SPM brings together business capabilities, investments, programs, digital and physical products, applications, and projects into a complex mix, but really makes sense out of it for us. OnePlan provides a complete SPM platform to do all these things, and OnePlan can add these capabilities for Smartsheet users. From a bottom-up standpoint, OnePlan connects to Smartsheet to provide the overarching governance for an EPMO that they might be needing and feeling that are gaps right now. And OnePlan provides a pre-built connector for Smartsheet to allow you to enable that relatively easily. And compared to other project portfolio management tools, OnePlan is a lower cost and faster to implement than and it gives you more quicker time to value, leveraging the things that you are already doing and things that you already own with Smartsheet. Now, our passion is project portfolio management, and we've been recognized by a number of entities. Microsoft, because OnePlan is provided via the Microsoft Cloud, we've been recognized as the Project and Portfolio Management Global PPM Partner of the Year multiple years, 5 years running, and been recognized in that designation, as well as been recognized by the analysts like Gartner, Infotech Research, and other entities regarding software reviewing sites, etc. Now you can trial OnePlan. Go to oneplan.ai/solutions or go to Microsoft's App Source, and you can see all these different solution templates. Now, for the strategic portfolio management piece that I showed you today, if you want to dabble in those, get the strategic portfolio management template when you actually start your OnePlan trial. Now, we're happy to chaperone you on that. So if you'd like to engage with us and have us help you on that, we're happy to support you on that. We also can help you with a roadmap workshop. So for example, if you're thinking, where do I start? How do I get from point A to point B? We can have a little workshop with you to discuss your current use of Smartsheet and assess the current requirements and desired future state of what you'd like to get to. And we can kind of tell you what the steps would be and how to get there and what those costs might be in order to get to the outcomes that you're looking for. Ultimately, those free trials, you can spin those up, and we can help you with those and make it to help you get more value out of that. The roadmap workshop, we'd love to do that for you. But if you're not that far and you just want to see more, I did a very high-level personalized, high-level general demo. If you want a more personalized demo, one-on-one to meet your specific requirements, we're happy to schedule that. Just reach us out, contact@oneplan.ai, or research more about this on www.oneplan.ai. Ultimately, just like to thank you for taking time out of your valuable and busy day. You can reach out to the general contact us, or if you want to reach out to me individually, you will be getting a copy of these slides, so you will have this contact information. But we like to say that OnePlan provides you the power of one. It gives you one interface, it gives you one experience, it gives you one hub for all that data, including your Smartsheet data. And ultimately, OnePlan can provide the SPM capabilities that you're looking for. Thank you again, and have a great day.